Amazon workers in Bessemer, Alabama are currently undergoing a union drive. And to be quite honest with you guys, the jury is still out over whether or not Biden weighing in on it is galvanizing the cause. Now, let me be clear in stating that Biden weighing in and supporting the effort to unionize, not just in Bessemer, Alabama, but throughout the country, is an important message. And he didn't seem to parse words. And I want to remind you of what he said, and then I'll give you the reactions from Amazon workers when we get back from the clip.
The choice to join a union is up to the workers, full stop, full stop. Today and over the next few days and weeks, workers in Alabama and all across America are voting on whether to organize a union in their workplace. This is vitally important, a vitally important choice as America grapples with the deadly pandemic, the economic crisis, and the reckoning on race. What it reveals the deep disparities that still exist in our country. And there should be no intimidation, no coercion, no threats, no anti-union propaganda.
So Woz, that's a strong statement, and that's the first time a United States president has weighed in. Well, a sitting president has weighed in support of unionizing. So, Obama famously said while he was campaigning that he would put his walking shoes on and then go to Wisconsin and march with the protesters and people on strike. He didn't actually do that. But what do you think about Biden's statement?
I'm not gonna lie, as somebody who was very skeptical of what a Biden administration would look like for working Americans, I was pleasantly surprised and proud, quite frankly. I tweeted sarcastically in my best Van Jones voice, Joe Biden became president today when he put that message out there. But part of me really means it, and it's crazy, and me and Nando say this to each other on the show all the time, but it's really shaping up that Joe Biden is going to have a way more substantive and impactful presidency than Barack Obama. He's already showing it, just the fact that, before they did what they did to make sure they passed the stimulus of $2 trillion, which was amazing. The fact that he came out and said, look, we're not doing this deficit nonsense anymore. It's done. Yeah. We got to get people help. That's a huge departure from Barry right there. Then, of course, he comes out and he gives a full-throated endorsement to unions and the effort to unionize amongst workers everywhere all over the country. I'm sorry, I was happy. I was proud of Joe Biden. I was pleasantly surprised as somebody who was just, the tack that they took during the campaign against Bernie, which was essentially we don't want to do anything or change anything. We just want to be nicer and more polite than Trump, didn't fill me with enthusiasm for what this administration would do for, again, normal working people in America, but that the president would use his bully pulpit to support unions. Again, you mentioned, Anna, in a way that Barack Obama never, ever did as president. It's huge. You can't understate the value, the importance of what Biden did last week.
Well, we also have some more positive updates, and I'll admit, I continue to get surprised when this happens. But in a previous show, we talked to you all about the PRO Act, which is an incredibly important piece of legislation that would ban right to work states. There was the Taft-Hartley Act that passed, I believe it was 1945 when it passed, and what it did was essentially suck power away from unions and allow for states to implement certain laws that make it increasingly difficult for workers to organize and form unions. So the PRO Act is important, and Biden has come out in support of that. I mean, Nando and I keep talking about this, both on this show and on weekends for Jacobin. And every time we talk about these issues, we're like, is Biden gonna do it? And then he does it. He supported the PRO Act. He supported this drive to unionize. And look, guys, it is really important, right? Because just like we saw with Trump and his supporters, Trump's words mattered. They did influence his supporters. They did influence people in this country, unfortunately in the worst kinds of ways, right? But with Biden, this is basically communicating to workers like the president of the United States, the most powerful person in this country, and certainly even possibly the most important person in the world, has your back as you're trying to do this. And Amazon has been intimidating their workers. Amazon has they're denying it, but there's some evidence to show that Amazon worked with the county in order to change the traffic lights. So they changed to green faster. That way, as Amazon workers who are trying to unionize or organizing, like as people are stopped at red lights, now they're unable to do it because it'll be a green light and then they have to go and they don't have the opportunity to talk. So this is good news, but it's still unclear if they're going to be able to unionize after they count the votes. March 29th is when the unionizing election ends. And the New York Times did manage to speak to some of the employees, and some of these comments, it's anecdotal, but still some of these comments are kind of discouraging. And that's not to discourage anyone who's part of this effort in Bessemer. Please keep fighting, keep going forward. Catherine Highsmith is a 24-year-old that the New York Times spoke to, and she said that she would wager that some employees were not aware that the president had said anything. She sees his support for the workers as less important than parts of his agenda that remain unfulfilled, including raising the federal minimum wage and sending robust stimulus checks to Americans. So, the Senate did just vote in favor of the $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief bill. It's now going to go back to the House, and Biden could sign it this week. That's what's expected, but. It's been pretty delayed, and I think that it does hurt Biden to some extent. I don't know if people's minds are going to change as soon as they get that relief, but this Amazon worker at least is not buying it from Biden. So, and let me just remind you all that there's 5,800 Amazon workers in this effort to unionize, right? So all of these people would be unionized if they vote in favor of the effort.
And it's important that people understand that. This is an issue of the utmost importance to one Jeff Bezos, AKA the richest man in the world, AKA Lex Luthor. There's no doubt in my mind that a significant amount of resources have been allocated towards crushing this unionization effort. There's no doubt in my mind that middle managers and different type of people have gotten that tap on the shoulder about how they should be propagandizing people to do the opposite of this union effort, how to fearmonger, how to scare people about what their livelihoods might end up being and how their paychecks might be at stake if this unionization effort is to pass. So don't get it twisted. When you see that there are people who are not trying to unionize, believe me, there's an effort internally going on, and it's absolutely coming from the top to dissuade everybody from thinking that unionizing is the right thing to do. And I would just remind everybody who's listening to this show, even when those people like Make America Great Again, they want to go back to the 1950s. Labor power, union power was never stronger. As far as the equality gap was never smaller in this country than those days, for the vast majority of Americans who happen to not be black, of course. But again, the worker was never more powerful and more ascendant in those days that they claim to have been the greatest of America. And ever since corporate interests in this country have gone about union busting and just decimating labor power, rights of the worker, wages of the worker have done nothing but stay stagnant, while those at the top have gotten richer, fatter, more egregious in their actions. And so some people can say that's a coincidence, but I happen to be somebody who doesn't think so.
Yeah, and I want to also note that the majority of the workers here are black, and so it's unionizing. This is the perfect example of the type of company that absolutely should have unionized workers. We're talking about 5,800 workers. They work in a warehouse in obviously Bessemer, Alabama, a part of the country that has lost so many of its jobs as a result of free trade agreements and policies that are made in Washington. And so one of the ways that they try to intimidate the workers here is by making them feel as though they should be grateful. They should be grateful that, yeah, they're working in these terrible conditions where their bathroom breaks are being very closely monitored. But if it weren't for this warehouse, they wouldn't be making $15 an hour. They would be making half that if they're lucky enough to find a job in Bessemer, Alabama. Those are the kinds of fear-mongering talking points that exist. But Amazon's got its factory there. They ain't going nowhere, and they're doing real well for themselves. Okay, they certainly can afford to improve the working conditions of their warehouse workers. There's no reason for them to be monitoring bathroom breaks like this. And considering this is not easy work, it's back-breaking work to work in those warehouses. And some might say $15 an hour is a huge improvement from the federal minimum wage, and it certainly is. But there is no way that I would agree that that they don't deserve to make more. They certainly do, but more importantly, they deserve protections, and that's what this union drive could potentially provide them. So solidarity and love to all of those workers in Bessemer. Hopefully, they get what they deserve and vote for this union.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.